Good morning, Kings. Today we're reflecting on Thanksgiving in preparation for the upcoming Canadian Thanksgiving. Many of us think of Thanksgiving as a celebration, a time for meeting family, and often it's a stressful tradition about turkey, stuffing, and getting just all the fixins just right. But what is really the point of Thanksgiving? Well, the origins are often usually traced back to the early settlers and indigenous traditions before that. That said, most cultures on Earth have a harvest celebration of some kind. Even in the Old Testament, there are three examples of them. There's the Feast of Unleavened Bread, the wheat harvest, and the first fruits harvest. These principally happened in spring, summer, and autumn, respectively. Now, with globalization and secularization, the importance of Thanksgiving has somewhat faded. Food is everywhere in our culture, and it's often wasted. Even when we can't afford it, it's still pretty accessible through food banks and other options. We can't really imagine there actually not being any food. We can't imagine an empty grocery store. Even when you watch zombie apocalypse films, there's always something left behind in the grocery store. Always. And that's because our culture has really forgotten what it's like to not have much. And we've also forgotten what is the point of giving thanks. Thankfulness has become something more of a mental health tool. Therapists recognize its value in terms of mood and how it can help people. And they give gratitude lists as exercises. But this misses the fundamental point. Yes, feeling gratitude helps with our mental health, but it's an incomplete substitute because we are relational beings, and Thanksgiving isn't about just being thankful. It's about giving thanks to someone. It's about praising God for his provision and the reminder of our dependency on him, but also the security in knowing his character as a loving God who cares about you and me. It's not because he needs our thanks, but rather it's a loving acknowledgement. Check this out from Acts 17:24 and 25. The Lord who made the world and everything in it is Lord of heaven and earth, and does not live in temples built by human hands. And he is not served by human hands as though he needs anything. Rather, he himself gives everyone life and breath and everything else. So everything we have, everything that exists, comes from God. So we should give thanks, not because God requires it, but because it is a good and right thing to do. We can't give to God anything that he didn't already make. In fact, David speaks of this in his prayer in the assembly. This is from First Chronicles 29. Uh, but who am I and who are my people that we should be able to give as generously as this? Everything comes from you, and we have given you only what has come into our hands. We are foreigners and strangers in your sight, as were all our ancestors. Our days on earth are like a shadow without hope. Lord our God, all this abundance that we have provided for building you a temple for your holy name comes from your hands. All of it belongs to you. So realistically, everything that we have, everything that we own is really God's anyway. The best that man can be praised for is modifying God's creation. But even with that, our abilities come from God. So at the end of the day, everything still belongs to him. But let us go one step further. This is from Mark 12. The context is that the Pharisees and the Herodians are trying to trap Jesus. Nice guys. They came to him and said, "Teacher, we know that you are a man of integrity You aren't swayed by others because you pay no attention to who they are, but you teach the way of God in accordance with the truth. How's that for a setup? Is it right to pay imperial taxes to Caesar or not? Should we pay or shouldn't we? How's that for a question? That's quite the trap. But Jesus, knowing their hypocrisy, says, "Why are you trying to trap me? Bring me a denarius and let me look at it." So they brought him a coin, and he said, "Whose image is on it and whose inscription?" "Caesar's," they replied. And Jesus said to them, "Give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and give to God what is God's." Now, this comment begs a follow-up question for this illustration. What is God's? And the answer to that is, whose image is on you? In other words, we belong to God. So it is right to give ourselves over to God, to offer ourselves as a living sacrifice, holy and pleasing to God. Is this not our true and proper way to give thanks? For your reflection questions for this week. How does recognizing that everything comes from God and that it already belongs to Him shapen or reshapen your posture for giving thanks? And what does it mean to you personally to give to God what is God's? Well, that's it for today. I will close in the words of Psalm 24. The earth is the Lord's and everything in it. The world and all its people belong to Him. Have a great day, Kings. Happy Thanksgiving.